One, we're in.
Good morning and welcome to the Business in the Community Opening Doors What Works session. My name is Stephen Cooper. I am chair of the BITC Employment and Skills Leadership Team, and in my spare time, I guess, I'm also chief executive of the specialist bank Aldermore, chair of Experian UK, and I'm a former co-chair of the Social Mobility Commission. So this is a subject matter I care about, and as part of that, Aldermore were one of the co-funders of some research into what works and what doesn't work into helping to firms to employ people from more diverse backgrounds. And that research comprised of a number of things, but particularly research with over 2,500 or nearly 2,500 people from diverse backgrounds as to what would make life easier for them in searching for better roles and jobs, and what organizations and businesses should think about in relation to finding people from more diverse backgrounds, which you all know is good for business. And that has all come together into a toolkit, which is what today is all about. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ola Kolade, who is going to run us through the findings of the research. Ola is the Director of Employment Skills at Business in the Community. He leads all the strategic work with businesses, government, civil society to really help us improve social mobility through employment and education. He's also, and I don't know how he finds the time for all this, but he's also a councillor and cabinet member in the London Borough of Croydon and a trustee of Oasis Charitable Trust. So Ola, over to you.
Brilliant, and thank you very much for that introduction, Stephen. And it's just great to see so many people with us this morning for the launch of our Opening Doors What Works toolkit. And as Stephen said, we initiated this research project with the objective of seeking to identify the most effective ways that employers can support job seekers from diverse backgrounds, specifically those facing intersectional barriers such as age, gender and race. And as most people on the call will be aware of, BITC has been a long-standing campaigner on these issues. So we wanted to use the insights from our inclusion campaigns, in addition to new evidence from job seekers, from employers, to investigate and gain innovative insights into the employer actions that can make the most impact to open doors to people from diverse backgrounds. So for the next sort of 10 minutes, I'm just going to go through some insights and key insights that we saw from the research. But before diving into that, I thought it would be helpful to give a bit of an overview around the methodology that we used for the project. And as I mentioned, over the decades, we've accumulated insights from our inclusion campaigns. We undertook an analysis of these insights in relation to intersectionality. We spoke to over 20 employers to really identify what factors were driving their recruitment decisions, but more importantly, to understand the approach these employers were taking to intersectionality in their recruitment. And then we undertook a YouGov employer survey to test the findings of the insights. And we also carried out a YouGov survey of job seekers to identify which actions they believe had the biggest impact on addressing intersectional barriers to them gaining work. And then finally, we undertook a series of focus groups because we really wanted to get that lived experience to uncover insights from job seekers on the intersectional barriers preventing them from getting good work. And so this sort of comprehensive methodology gave us copious amounts of insights, of research data. And we have compiled this into a toolkit. It was a challenge. I'm sure Kate from my team will echo that. It was a challenge, condensing all these different, insights and the data into a toolkit. But we got there. And we will be publishing a report next month to inform employers, and to inform government, and to inform civil society on what recruitment interventions really work in supporting job seekers from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And as Stephen said at the start of the call, I would really like to use this opportunity to thank Heathrow Airport, Lloyd's Register, Aldermore Bank for their support of the project, in addition to the employers and job seekers who took part in this project. Now that we've got the sort of introduction out the way, if we go to the next slide and we can sort of dive into some of the insights. So just, I guess, just to set the context as well, we know that, socioeconomic disadvantage is compounded by an intersection of other factors that lead to inequalities. As you can see from the slide, we know that over half of job seekers from lower socioeconomic backgrounds feel consistently overlooked in the job market. And this is not just about, it's not just about missing out on job opportunities. This is about systemic challenges that affect their livelihoods, that affects their well-being and their ability to get into good work. And we also know that 42% of employers are currently reporting difficulties in filling vacancies, which for me points to a significant gap in how we are currently approaching recruitment. So next slide, please. So if we look at what employers are saying, most employers, most employers have ambitions to diversify their workforce. And from the research, the key drivers that we saw was that employers obviously recognize that it's not just a nice thing to do, it's actually the right thing to do, which is really positive. So we're really seeing that business leadership in these ambitions. We also know that employers believe that, this diversity does encourage that diversity of thinking, diversity of approach when it comes to running a business or running an organization. And we also know that business leaders and organizations are keen that their workforce reflects the customer base that they seek to serve and also the communities that they work in. But one of the things that we realize is, whilst, 53% of UK businesses are making efforts to attract a diverse workforce, a significant number, 23%, are still not collecting any diversity data at recruitment, and 84% of employers are not collecting data on socioeconomic backgrounds. And we know there are challenges around this, and a lot of the work that the Social Mobility Commission have done and other organizations have done have really supported businesses in collecting that data. So we want to see more of that data because we know that a lack of data capture certainly has an impact on how employers can create effective strategies to understand who is knocking on their doors, but more importantly, how best to support people to open doors into employment. And from the research, we also identified that nearly 70% of employers do not have specific recruitment targets around diversity, which again, for me, highlights a gap between that ambition and the action that some employers are taking. If we can go to the next slide for me. So very quickly, just to look at what job seekers are saying. And for us, it was critical that we heard from job seekers, whether it was through the survey or through the focus groups, to ensure we had that lived experience. And what we heard was really stark. It highlighted, the significant barriers that job seekers face. And for me, one of the things that really stood out was how multiple characteristics compound this advantage. And as you can sort of see on the screen at number 2, when you look at people trying to apply for jobs, we saw that how the lack of digital skills was a barrier, and how this barrier was compounded when you look at it from an intersectional lens of disability and ethnicity, some really stark figures there. And the other thing that we pulled out from the insights was that job seekers told us that not many applications are mobile friendly, affecting nearly 40% of young people. We also know that there is a digital divide that impacts young people and people from diverse backgrounds in terms of being able to access job applications. So that was a really stark insight for me. If we can just go to the next slide, please. So we also wanted to share a couple of quotes just to bring out what we heard from those focus groups. And I'll just read out a couple of these quotes. One participant told us that you see all sorts of jobs out there, but it's really difficult to find ones that suit me and my qualifications. And for me, this highlights the need for employers to recruit on potential, not just qualifications. And I'm really pleased that a lot more employers are focusing on that skills-based, that strengths-based recruitment, but we want to see more of it. We want to see employers, removing the requirement for degree qualifications for jobs that don't necessarily need it. And this came out loudly in the focus groups. We also had one participant tell us that, when I do not disclose that I am a woman and I don't disclose my ethnic origin, I'm invited to more interviews. And for me, I think this, we all know, there's been a lot of research that has covered this. It further illustrates the bias that still exists in the recruitment process. And then finally, we had another participant say that I started an admin job and the interview was accessible, which is positive, but the actual job wasn't. It was meant to be a computer-based job, but ended up being paper-based. And again, I think from an opening doors perspective, this highlights the need for employers to ensure that job descriptions match the day-to-day requirements of the job. So I think there's a lot that we've uncovered. The toolkit certainly has a lot more data and insights. If we can just go to the next slide, just to go through some calls to actions before I hand back to Steve. So we, as I mentioned, we've heard some insights from the project, but we just wanted to highlight 3 key recommendations that we want to make to employers. And the first is that employers just need to integrate social mobility into their equity, diversity, and inclusion strategies. And we know some employers are already doing this, which is positive, but more employers need to do this. We also recommend using our toolkit to support your approach to applying that intersectional lens to your recruitment process. But more importantly, if I can stress anything from this, it was the lack of data collection. And we just want to stress that we recommend that employers start to collect that data right through their recruitment process so they can see who's knocking on their doors, where they might be getting those doors shut to them, and more importantly, what can be done to open those doors through analysing and collecting that data stats. So I'll probably stop there. Thank you very much for listening. Please do get the toolkit when it's out, and I will hand you back over to Stephen. Thank you.
Ola, thank you. Very clear and some good points there to think about. Now I'm going to hand over to a keynote speaker. Delighted to welcome Parminder Kohli to the call. I've known Parminder for a number of years, and it's great to see him now being a very active, vocal, and experienced commissioner for the Social Mobility Commission. Parminder's been a leader in various organisations, various countries, various industries, but for the past 20 years has been at Shell. And I saw a note or an announcement recently that he's just been promoted to be chair of Shell UK. So, Parminder, congratulations to you. I know social mobility is a key passion of yours. I know that you've also been a non-executive director for Success for All Educational Trust, which I think runs 2 or 3 secondary schools in the London Borough of Havering, which is great. And I think also in May 2022, you were included in Involve Empower's top 100 senior executives for work on diversity and inclusion. So clearly you are passionate and have a lot of experience in this space. So over to you.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Stephen. And I remember our conversation before I was looking to apply for the Social Mobility Commission, and it really helped to have a chat with you. Good morning, everybody, and I really appreciate BITC calling me today to address this very passionate audience around social mobility and reducing injustices in society. I'm one of the 7 commissioners at the Social Mobility Commission. The Social Mobility Commission really exists to see a country where circumstances of birth do not determine the outcome of life. I think we can all subscribe to that mission that the Commission truly exists for. So you can see my fellow commissioner, and we are under the chairmanship of Alan Francis, who's heading the FE College in Blackpool. So one of the key deliverables of the Social Mobility Commission, if you go to the next slide, is an annual State of the Nation report. And this was published, the last edition of it was published in September 2023. And I think the last year's report was one of the most comprehensive look at social mobility across many different outcomes in which we look at social mobility, whether it's occupation, your income, your educational outcomes, your wealth, and finally, in terms of even the household, housing stock is their mobility across all of these parameters. So it's a very comprehensive report, but also it looked at the protected characteristics of sex, ethnicity, and disability. So some of the interesting finding which might inform some of the conversation which is going to follow my session is, what is some of the interesting data coming out? One interesting data is that women fare worse than men when it comes to social mobility. One example coming from our data is only 8% of the women from lower socioeconomic backgrounds actually moved to higher professional groups, whereas 14% of the men did from the same lower socioeconomic background. So clearly women do worse. When it comes to ethnic minorities, there's an interesting statistics of actually the ethnic minority does better in terms of educational mobility. So actually the ethnic minority children from households which have no higher education do better than their white counterparts in higher education. But when it comes to occupational mobility, the same ethnic minority families do worst. So clearly the progress being made on education doesn't get translated into occupational mobility. And I think that's something similar to what Ola was suggesting, that people really struggle to get on the right kind of jobs, right? So that's kind of one of the aspects I wanted to share. Another area which also came up in Ola's statistics was about disability. Again, we see people with disabilities fare worse across all of these parameters of mobility that I spoke about, whether it's education, employment, income, housing, etc. But the gap narrows as you go into higher socioeconomic status. So if you have disability and you're at a higher socioeconomic status, then the gap is much lower, but the gap is really wide when it comes to disability in lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So if you look at the next slide, what we also did last year was to take a very deep look at geographical disparities. I mean, it will not come as a surprise that United Kingdom is not uniform in its outcomes when it comes to social mobility outcomes. And the whole leveling up agenda talks about that. But this kind of puts it in stark light. So you can see the areas, and it's a pretty composite index which looks at deprivation, and you can say red is worse and blue is better. So you can see densely populated urban areas, there's higher level of economic deprivation, especially with young, more needs, lower economic prospects, lower job prospects, much more lower socioeconomic jobs and higher unemployment in these densely populated urban areas. And London is interesting. You can see it's quite blue. So there is higher social mobility in London and the Southeast. But in London, we also see, especially in the youth, high level of unemployment and more economic deprivation. So it's a mixed picture. And why this is important is if employers or local authorities want to make a difference in their communities, they really need to understand the nuances of how their communities are faring in granular details in their local authorities. So that's something which is just important to highlight, and all of this detail is there in a data explorer tool on the Social Mobility Commission's website. One of the other things which wouldn't come as a surprise, that from the bottom of the society, so bottom 10 to 15% of the lower working class background, we see a 21% of the population not in income, education, or training, which is almost double of what you see in slightly higher socioeconomic status. So clearly, we are leaving a large part of the society behind, and specifically in certain geographies. So how does that inform the work that Commission is trying to do? So if you go to the next slide, and there are 4 priority areas of the Commission, but I think pertinent to today's conversation is the 2 areas on the left-hand side. One is about growing opportunity. So clearly we know if there's higher economic activity in a geography and there's more innovation, new companies being opened, clearly it will lead to higher social mobility because there's more opportunities and people do not have to travel out of their geographies. And businesses have a choice of where they set up their enterprise, where they help bring up the communities. And finally, the businesses and people on this call have a big role to play in developing skills and talent of the future, especially of those who come from the lower socioeconomic background. And those are the priority pillars of the commission. So if you go to the next slide, what I wanted to do is a call of action to everybody here attending is, employers can make a big difference. Probably the single largest driver of improving social mobility is the kind of employment people get at the end of their education or when they want to get into employment. And people on this call can make a tremendous amount of difference because 30 million people in the country are employed in a variety of sectors, whether it's private, third sector, or government. So let's go a little bit detail into what the employers can do and what people on this call can do. So if you go to the next slide, please. There are two things that the employers can do. One is about getting people into work, and then the second bit is how can employers support people when they get into work? So getting into work, there are a couple of things. One, we've seen since the start of the apprenticeship levy over the last few years, there's been higher number of higher degree apprenticeships being created. And there's a decline in level 2, level 3, entry level apprenticeships. And actually that makes a big difference because we see the higher level apprenticeships being taken up by people from higher socioeconomic backgrounds. And really people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds need a more entry step into the workplace. So I think that's something to think about. The other thing for employers, especially in getting people into work, can think about how they, and Ola talked about it, how they can widen the pool of talent from which they're searching for employees. So it's about the outreach program that most successful employers do who attract more diverse talent, is that they have a better outreach program to schools. They do better signposting of the kind of trainings that people can do, which will make them more employable. So it's a bit of the community engagement, especially in the geographies where there's more deprivation. So it's a bit more of doing outreach. So once an organization does better, both in trying to create entry-level pathways for people from lower socioeconomic background and the intersectionality that we spoke about, whether it's ethnicity or disability, and widening the reach so that people are more aware of where the employment prospects are. Then if you go to the next slide, then once you do the tough work of getting people in, what we see is that actually a lot of people from socioeconomic backgrounds then struggle to progress. So it's not just about widening the access space from where you bring people in, but it's also about then what do you do as an employer to support people in terms of in-work training, creating pathways, making these pathways a bit more visible and accessible, because a lot of people coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds do not know how to navigate the career path. So what kind of support mechanism do you give to progress people, and also the training, which is ongoing work training, to upskill the folks you pick up from these diverse backgrounds. And finally, I think Ola made a very, very good point around data, because if there is no data capture, then there is no way of judging how well one is doing, both in terms of attraction and progression. And I think a lot of progress has been made on ethnicity data capture, but I see there's from the work BITC has done and what we do as I chair our employer advisory group in the commission, we see there's still gaps in data capture on ethnicity, but there's really a very big data capture on socioeconomic status as one of the characteristics to pick up as you start gathering data. And I think it's only a handful of employers, so it doesn't surprise me that only 12% of the employers do anything around socioeconomic background of the people. And as you can see, there are clear intersectionalities between socioeconomic background, ethnicity, and disability. So and the lack of socioeconomic progress. So I'll stop here, but I think today this organization, this platform has a great opportunity to really share and look at what are the best practices around the various employers who are present here. And like with BITC, we have a lot of toolkits and data available on the Social Mobility Commission website, and very happy to engage you at a later stage. And our details are out there. if you want to engage with us on and some of the best practices that we have gathered. So I'd hand it now, I think, to Jess to take it further.
Is it going to you, Jess, or to me to introduce you? But I think you can introduce yourself in that case. Thank you, Parminder.
Sorry, Stephen, go for it.
That's fine. I can introduce myself. Thank you, Stephen. So yes, hi everyone. Lovely to be here today. Really interesting topic. I'm Jess Sewter, so I'm Chief Partnerships Officer for Generation UK and Ireland. So we are a leading charity skills bootcamp provider, and we are set up specifically to support social mobility. So we provide boot camps that train for jobs that we know are in high demand and low supply with employers. And we are here to support specifically people who are actively job seeking, who are underemployed or unemployed, and who are facing these intersectional barriers that have been mentioned today. So either protected characteristics that are underrepresented in the sectors that we're working with, or situational circumstances. And that's who we're here to support. So I'm here to lead a fireside chat with Samson and Daniel, so two of our graduates from different boot camps. We've got Samson, who completed our data engineering program in 2021 and is now working as a data engineer at TUI. And we also have Daniel, who completed our digital customer service bootcamp in 2021 and is now working as an energy specialist at Octopus Energy. So going to be chatting to you two. So Daniel, let's start with you. Can you just briefly describe for us what your situation was like then before you got involved with Generation?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to Generation and also to Octopus Energy, who employed me afterwards, because I've been reflecting a lot on this lately. And I was really like, I'm very lucky in many ways, but I was in a quite desperate situation when I came to Generation. You know, I had spent that 3 years before that unemployed, basically in the primary childcare for my daughter because my partner was at university. Long story short, things didn't work out the way me and my partner and our family was planning. And we were basically out of money and we needed to do something quickly. And I needed a job, you know, immediately. And I wasn't really getting very far with it at all. And the kind of jobs I was applying for was just literally anything I could get at the time. And then somebody told me about the Generation thing and I took a punt on it. And I thought, you know, yes, it's going to delay me getting into work. But in my mind, I thought I'll take them at their word and I'll take this as a guaranteed opportunity. If I put my all into it, that it'll get me a job at the end of it. And you know what? You know, here I am. And actually, like, I couldn't really think of a better role for me right now, say, than the one I'm in right now. Being not just an energy specialist, but specifically I do with complaints and higher escalations with the complaints. And that really suits my personality well. And also, I just want to say as well, I feel like I'm almost speaking on behalf of my cohort because literally every day I go on my LinkedIn, I say all the people used to be my cohort, like loads of them are still on there, all with great jobs and everything. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like nice and inspiring to see that it's not just even me. It's like, you know, and then you see them getting promoted to other positions and moving around and stuff. So yeah, I mean,
that's nice.
I feel very lucky.
You kept in touch with that cohort. Lovely.
Well, I say keep in touch. You know, it's online. I watch them from a distance, you know, but no, it's lovely.
Lovely. And Samson, what about you? What was your situation before you found Generation?
All right, so my situation essentially was that I tried to go down the normal path of going to universities and trying to find something you're keen on. But halfway through, I had the epiphany that the course that I was doing didn't really have a proper future for it. So I kind of thought maybe I'm thinking long term, let me try and find an actual proper career. And through that, I was just trying to find, like, starting from the ground up, and bring yourself up, like, you know, how you're told when you're young, you start low, you ground up, and you just find these dead-end jobs, essentially. And through my early 20s, I was going through that, and basically growing up and learning how to be an adult through leaving school and going to college and higher education, and realizing that the world's a little bit different. And as that was going on, essentially, obviously life was catching up, and I had to, you know, trying to support myself individually. I didn't really have any strong family support because they couldn't really support themselves at that point. I was figuring out that, yeah, I was doing well. I was working. I was doing what I was saying. I was trying to lift myself up, but it wasn't enough. These jobs weren't enough. I needed a proper career. And when I went to go find these careers, essentially, it was almost a Herculean task to find that kind of effort let alone get the luck to find it. So luckily enough, when COVID happened, well, luckily enough, should be well, careful I say that. I really did some self-reflecting and figured out that this is these 2 years I need to focus on trying to upskill myself. And it just so happens that I had an email from a generation, and I gave them a chance. They gave a chance on me, and I proved to them that literally I was serious about upskilling myself to the point where I can be self-sufficient and look after myself and not be fully dependent. So not so much fully dependent, but fully like just vulnerable in the situation was, because the gig economy right now, when it comes to younger people trying to learn to get into the career path, can be rough if faced with it, if they don't get those opportunities, essentially. And that's what generation came and gave me. Since now I'm working with TUI, and through all the massive support as well, through like making sure that I fit, that I understand what I'm going into, the intensive coursework, saying that, oh, you're getting familiarized with the work effort, what is expected of the research, and also try like that short thing really gave me the training and the foundation to go on and learn more and be prepared on the job for when I actually get that job, and also gave me the opportunity to speak to these employees to see if even if we had the similar cultures that mesh together. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And so both of you were actively job seeking, but not managing to get that to secure anything. So Daniel, what for you were the key barriers you were facing, do you think, to get the job, the kind of job, the long lasting, life-changing job that you were looking for?
Yeah, so for me, I felt like I had to start from scratch because I actually had some skills like from years ago. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I actually was on like a graduate course and everything, and I dropped after 6 months because of family issues, out of that graduate thing. But when I started again, like it was just impossible to get any jobs that were like actually aligned with my skill set at all. And even the lower ones, like I don't mean to do it down because I've worked in plenty of shops before myself, but even those I was struggling to get a job with, to be honest. The only person who offered me a job, and it was actually funny, it was the same time that I was offered the place in Generation, was doing 8 hours overnight, 3 days a week in a petrol station on like one of the main roads down here. And that was the only person, and that was just an interview for that job, you know what I mean? And I applied for, I don't know, maybe over 100 jobs or something, So let alone like actually things that I'm actually good at, you know what I mean? It was I couldn't even get through the door on the most basic things. And then the thing that was offered to me was so like, I don't know. I mean, maybe, in some crazy future, there would have been some path there, but obviously, as soon as as I got through the door at Octopus, and and also they gave me a chance for a long period of time, I really feel like I'm finding my feet, and I've got a lot of value to offer the company and everything. So yeah, that's kind of my experience.
And were you like sending out applications and CVs? Did you get any response from employers to say why you weren't successful, or was it?
To be honest, not really, no. So I did cover letters, I did CVs, so I didn't really get
No
much
prompting.
feedback at all. No, at all. To be honest, I wasn't sure. Like, I rewrote things. I kind of went through my mind in terms of it. I speak to people on the phone even, sometimes to get through to somebody, and I felt like I had a positive conversation, and then they go radio silent on me, and you never know. I don't know. You don't know what it is about you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, like, I don't know. I just felt like I just needed the opportunity to prove myself, to almost just like show that I'm work ready. And I feel like, and I kind of knew when Generation came along that if I just turn up every day, you know what I mean, and show that I'm capable, and if I can get put in front of somebody, in a meaningful scenario, then I'll be able to prove myself. But yeah.
Yeah, great. And Samson, you wanted to get into tech and get into data engineering. Did you try before to secure a data engineering role?
Ooh, yeah, listen, as you can see by my face, I tried a lot, and the issue was essentially that even these so-called entry positions that people like to put down, it felt almost, when looking back on it, almost so disingenuous, because a lot of the things they were asked for, the typical stuff where they were asking for years of experience for an entry-level role, and then you going in and trying to even give yourself some sort of foundational, or even like go out your way to go into some course, or even pay for courses yourself to build up yourself. It's almost like they're trying to look for something. They're trying to look for something that's not really there. They're looking at the wrong selection, if you will. And so when it came to like trying to figure out how to unblock myself, it almost felt like I was just giving my effort and giving my letters to someone that's not even there. And it was that lack of communication, which I feel like generation really helped unblock that with me, because where some other courses will just give you something and then have you on your way, and even when the stuff that they give you can be questionable, with generation they were very serious, adamant, but yes, this is a career that we're looking forward to. It's going to be, they're going to be very upfront and honest, saying that this is not going to be, this is a very intensive course, you might not even get at first, but keep your mind to it and keep your open mind and work on it. You slowly gain those skills. And then through that, I felt like when I was scaling up and learning the stuff that I needed to do through the Python or SQL stuff, when the employers came through, you could, which is something that was almost unheard of that until I went to Generations, that they actually had employers looking for juniors. They also had to market themselves to us as where we want people like you. We exist and we want roles for you. And some of the choices that I would have picked on paper really had to bring their A game, which is the reason why I went for 2 in the first place, because the project lead who was doing it, he answered. Not only was it the time sensitive part where it was in COVID, he managed to convince me that this is a good place to work with in a travel center during the heat of COVID. And just by hearing that, when I put a chance on them, he took a chance on me, and all I can say is that the proof is in the pudding, and the onboarding and support that I got is providing me a safe space to work and progress my career essentially.
Amazing. And it's such a positive experience, isn't it, that you're training for a specific role and then you have employers coming in to the bootcamp pitching to you to tell, really wanting you to apply to them. That must feel really different from that lead up time.
Yeah.
Daniel, you talked a bit about the impact of the bootcamp in skills and confidence. How can you just talk a bit about that and how that helped you access that first role? Okay,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of twofold. I mean, the skill side, we did over and over again. We went through all of the skills. I mean, at the time, I didn't really understand how, because you think, especially like customer service facing role, that I started, in over the phones, you can't think, it's just talk to people and that and the other. But actually, all the skills I learned in terms of active listening, about what are the right questions to ask, how to handle certain situations, how to de-escalate, and going over it over and over and over again every single day and playing out different scenarios. I mean, it almost felt a bit redundant at the time, but then I realized as soon as I got into the job, like, although I was extremely anxious and I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, when it actually came to picking up the phone and speaking to somebody, it all clicked into place, and I had the skills to move forward, and that gave me a huge move forward. I think the other thing is, I think sometimes some people need more time and space. I mean, I don't get too much into it, but I got a little bit sick, over the 3 years when I was unemployed, and I generally got some anxiety issues and stuff, and it's something that Octopus actually supports me with now, which is amazing, which is they provide like counseling service and everything, which I still use. Like, I'm even going there today, but it was very much like that with the generation, because sometimes it could all be a bit overwhelming, and I remember speaking to the mentor, because you got the two sides of it, don't you? Well, I don't know if you still run it like that, but you used to have like the person who takes you through the personal skills and then your mentor. And I would like literally, be on the phone, like, crying to my mentor and everything, and nobody would see that. But then it would allow me to come back 9 o'clock the next day, ready to go pick up the skills, you know what I mean? And, and by the end of it, I say, have that confidence, I say, to do the job that I'm put into, Yeah, great. Yeah, we still do that. We teach the technical side, and we also cover the growth mindset and resilience that people need in the roles. What about you, Samson? Are you still using skills that you learned on the bootcamp in the job?
All the time. To be honest, I don't know if I already said it before, but when I said that the course was really intense, I mean that it was almost like training us for the actual environment of working within the job, how to be a junior, how to go about talking through a problem. Not only that, but as you know, as a junior, when you're coming in, you're an important aspect of the workforce, because you're the future of the company essentially. You're planning to like grow through. So how do you go about asking, or not even just asking, how do you go about bringing up a problem and going over to talk about stuff? Not only with just, like I said, that with the soft skills and the hard skills, like learning languages and certain coding aspects with it. when the technicality stuff, but also the important thing where you are also made within. The more you can train up the soft skill part of it, the more you can adapt yourself to any sort of company that you go to, and that's what really it didn't. At one point, obviously, I say that now, but everyone else, anyone there that was doing it who came from similar backgrounds, they were like, "Well, this is a bit much. This is very tough," and you'll learn something, and then you have to learn something else, and you have to keep the soft first thing that you learn in. But it absolutely helped, at least reassure me to know that this is what it's actually like, and is it something that you actually want to contend and keep with? For me, it was one of those things, and so I'll say that, to be honest, the training that I got was second to none, and essentially it's helped carry me through with the foundations that you built for me through my actual role in TUI currently.
Amazing, really lovely to hear. And then I suppose what I think would be really interesting for people to hear now is from your experience then, and from the experience of your peers, what do you think is the one thing that employers could do to open doors more and to make recruitment easier for people who are, from different backgrounds, who aren't coming through the normal channels?
I can go first if you want, David.
Yes,
So how I feel like it is actually understanding, or not, how would I put that this way? When you first job, anyone that joins a job, right, not joins a job role right now, the onboarding process, it has to be up to grade. It can't be lacking in any sort of way, because these are the important times, especially for a junior, to actually gain good habits and good understanding of the culture, what they need to go through, and what they need to learn to operate your business and your business knowledge and business and the way your business actually works. So how I would say it is making sure that when you come to social heights, almost higher, especially junior roles, is to have a good foundation of like seniors that not so much are there to mentor, but are there comfortable knowing that they have enough to almost know how to unsilo their information, so everyone, the juniors can go over and really experience what the company is about and how to go around communicating and working properly. Also, being fully honest of what you need as well. So, like many times, if you go in trying to get someone to work for, and you're just looking for, if you're looking for someone that is, you want someone to be hard in for example, if we put this into data engineering, somebody you want someone to be really coding, somebody really efficient at coding, and then you think, oh, the best thing I need to do is get a senior, but then you get a senior that's probably hasn't been doing any code tickets for quite some time, because they've been a senior for forever. They're mainly managing and manipulating around. Maybe that might not be the right thing to go for, because I feel like that either a mid or even junior level, you can really shape them into what you want them to be for that role. And I feel that's really important, to know what you're going for, and to also have the chance to build on juniors as well, if there is space for, because you as soon as if you've got the right development tools and progression and support, like you do with generation, these junior roles won't be junior roles for too long, and then they'll be really important members of your business to be honest, at a cheaper rate as well. So that's how I see it.
That's a really important point, because there are lots of people looking for those mid-senior level people. And actually, what you're saying is create more entry-level roles, so they're really entry-level and not asking for a couple of years' experience, and then get that talent pipeline moving up.
Yeah, because if you one other thing is, if your development progress career is not good enough for a junior, what makes you think it's good enough for the mid-level or senior either?
Great, brilliant, and strong onboarding. I got that as well. And Daniel, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I think you covered a lot of the things, Samson, that I would agree with, to be honest. I do think it's interesting what you say about like people becoming seniors, because actually I was thinking this the other day, like I can't actually believe, but I'm like an experienced member of my team. Like I'm somebody that other people come to now to know how things are done. And other people from, say on paper seem highly capable, and they come to me and they're saying, hey, can you show me how to do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the senior person now. And and actually in 3 years isn't a long time to, you know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't seem like too much of an investment for the amount of value that I add now, you know? I mean, at the time, like I was, say, highly anxious, you know, very nervous, and I felt like, you know, they needed to give me a lot when I came through the door, you know what I mean? But actually, you know, it hasn't actually been that long for me to become, you know what I mean, almost what they would want, like a senior, you know, experienced person, and, you know, being able to do that. I think personally, I quite like work related things. I know it's not always possible, but work related, like, you know, role playing scenarios, you know what I mean? Like if I'm going to be on the phone to a customer, you know, could we do like a scenario like that, you know, because some of the people that used to be my cohort, you know, they were extremely capable, you know, talking and conversing, but maybe, you know, their CV didn't look so good, or they weren't so good at writing, or if you put them on a certain exam, they wouldn't do so well. But, you know, I would be confident if you put them on the phone, you know what I mean, that they would be, you know, highly capable. And you know that in an instant. So if you put them in a role-playing scenario, you know straight away, like, okay, this person is the kind of person that can, you know, deal with difficult situations, can talk people down, can work things out. So I really like that, you know, I like role-playing things. And I just think, as I say, transparency is super important, you know, and as I say, an effort being put into, you know, what core skills you really want. I think a lot of the, I mean, like in my job, like a lot of the stuff that's like, I don't know how the platform works, how you do billing, how do you, I don't know, you know, just general like technical things. You can pick those up along the way, but I think the core skills are more important, you know. If you got the right personality, then I think that that's really what I don't know. If I was an employer, that's what I'd be looking for, you know, because you got the right person, I say eventually they're going to pick up all the small things anyway, and you're going to have an incredible, you know, valuable person at the company.
Great. That's such an important point. So really you're pushing there for assessment based skills based assessments rather than just looking at CVs. And you've both mentioned sort of transparency and honesty with what employers are looking for, and to be really clear around that. So, and high for aptitude and personality as well has come through. So thank you. Really inspiring to talk to you both. You've both done so well, and brilliant that in 3 years you're both so well regarded and progressed so well in your roles. So thank you for talking to me today. I think we're at time, Stephen. So I don't know whether to pass back to you now.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what to say really, apart from well done, Samson and Daniel. Great to hear your stories. It's not easy sharing that. And if we wanted to, I guess, today we've gone through sort of research, data. Parminder's given us some really good insights around data from the Social Mobility Commission. Ola has shared where we are on the toolkit, but again, is research-led from a whole bunch of surveys and some very useful tips. And we will share the toolkit post this. But I think what Jess, you brought to life with Samson and Daniel, just how this all comes to life with reality. And it's amazing to see how two young men have transformed their lives through no fault of theirs, a circumstance they are in, and have got into employment and are progressing in employment. So well done to you, Jess, and Generation, but a particular well done to Samson and Daniel. And I think your two employers have got two great colleagues. So well done them, but this is what it's all about. And sometimes this comes across as a nice to do. And I guess when you just listen to that last 10 minutes, it is a nice to do. But the reality is it's a must do for businesses. If you don't take this, what you don't get is great employees like we just experienced. And businesses are missing out on talent, and talent is in short supply. So please, as a business leader, think about this, access the toolkits for both BITC. Parminder also referred to the Social Mobility Toolkit. There's a good information website there as well. So please do access those. In the meantime, thank you for everyone joining. Thank you to the speakers and attendees. Toolkits will be out soon, and please make the most of them. Speak to you soon.